So we can move on to Canto 2, the kingdom of subtle matter. Fanny, would you read, please?
In the impalpable field of secret self, this little outer being's vast support parted from vision by Earth's solid fence. He came into a magic crystal air and found the life that lived not by the flesh, a light that made visible immaterial things.
So this is the kingdom of subtle matter, the subtle physical. It's the level which is nearest to our own. We'll learn a lot about it as we go through this canto. So as he goes on moving upwards in this impalpable field of secret self, it can't be felt by our senses. He says that impalpable field of secret self is the support. It's what allows the little outer being to exist. And that impalpable field of secret self is cut off from our vision by Earth's solid fence, this barrier of matter. Normally we can't see into that subtle world, but he becomes aware of it. He came into a magic crystal air, pure, clear air, and he found there a life that is not dependent on the flesh, on the physical body. And he finds a different kind of light, a light that makes visible things which are immaterial, which are not made of matter, but they exist, these things and beings and events. They're made of that subtle matter. Dana.
A fine degree in wondrous hierarchy, the kingdom of subtle matters, fiery craft, outlined against a sky of vivid hues, leaping out of a splendour-trance and haze, the bizarre revelation of its strength.
Yes. So he becomes aware of this kingdom of subtle matter. He says it's a fine degree. It's very refined and delicate in this hierarchy of wonderful worlds that he's beginning to become aware of. He says it's as if that kingdom of subtle matter has been made by faery craft. This is not the usual way that we spell the word faery. Usually we spell it F-A-I-R-Y, and we think of little subtle beings, small, who can do magic, good magic and mischievous magic. Aurobindo's using this poetic spelling. In fact, wherever he uses this word several times in the poem, and he always uses this spelling, F-A-E, which makes it a bit more magical than the ordinary F-A-I-R-Y. So there's a craft, there's a way of making things there, a magical way of making things. And he sees that kingdom, first of all, just outlined. He sees this outline of that kingdom outlined against a sky of bright colors, bright, intense colors. It seems to be leaping out at him from this splendor, the splendor of the colors of the skies, this atmosphere of trance and haze. Haze is when there's a mist. It's like looking through a cloud. The outline of that kingdom becomes perceptible to him. It shows him the wizard revelation of its front. So again, wizard is a word that evokes magic, enchantment. It reveals its front, just its first appearance. Gradually he will explore it more and more. But just that first material appearance is so magical. So now Aurobindo will tell us more about that world. Kamala.
A world of lovelier forms lies near to ours, but undisguised by Earth's deforming sight. All shapes are beautiful and all things true.
So that's that world of subtle matter, a world of lovelier forms, as if everything that we see here, even when it is very beautiful, it's already deformed and distorted by our physical sight. In that world, all shapes are beautiful.
Is it formed by our sight, or is it deformed by the very fact of matter? And it's
Yes, the fact that our sight depends on physical organs, that distorts our perception of the subtle reality.
I understood this passage like in the materialization, already this deformation takes place. Like by becoming material, it loses its beautiness.
Right. But we can, of course, sometimes get glimpses of that subtle world, but then just the way we look at it deforms and distorts it. Yeah. Martin.
In that lucent ambience, mystically clear, the eyes were doors to the celestial sense. Hearing was music, and the touch a charm, and the heart drew a deeper breath of.
So that atmosphere, that ambience, that environment is full of light and wonderfully clear. There's no pollution. So the eyes, of course, his Asvapati is in his body, but he's seeing perhaps with his physical eyes. The eyes become doors, they open up to a heavenly sense, not a physical sense such as we have here. Even our sense of vision depends on matter, on material forms and material organs. So what he's experiencing now is a much finer and subtler kind of sense perception. Hearing was music, and everything that was touched, a charm, delightful. And the heart there drew a deeper breath of power. It's a more powerful, deeper kind of energy, of prana. That world has a special relationship to our world. There dwell earth nature's shining origins, the perfect plans on which she molds her works. the distant outcomes of her travailing force repose in a framework of established fate. The origins of whatever exists or happens here on earth lies in that subtle world. There dwell earth nature's shining origins, the origins of what we experience and see and perceive here. There it's shining and more beautiful. There are the perfect plans on which earth nature shapes her works. And the distant outcomes, what will happen in the far future on earth when her travailing force, that laboring force of evolution, finds some fulfillment. Those things are already waiting, resting, repose in a framework of established fate, the way that they will be, that they are bound to turn out. They are already prepared there. Kanapan, go a little further. Go on to the next sentence. Attempted vainly now.
Attempted vainly now, and won in vain. Already were mapped and scheduled there the time and figure of our future sovereignties, the sumptuous lineaments traced by design.
Yes. So we may dream of wonderful achievements, wonderful works of art, of wonderful things that should happen, the way the world should be. If we try to achieve those things now, either we don't achieve them, we can't achieve them, or we may achieve them, but then they don't last. They don't, they're won in vain. But they are in that world, they are already there, mapped, laid out, it will be exactly like this, and scheduled. The time when these things will happen is already laid out. The figure of her, this is earth nature's future sovereignties, the wonderful achievements that she will know in the future. We can remember that the mother said about Aurobindo, that in the subtle physical, it's all already laid out there. It's just waiting to be able to manifest. Probably that manifestation depends to a certain extent on our receptivity to what is already mapped and scheduled there. But Mother says it doesn't depend on human beings. It will happen sooner or later. These figures of her, Earth's future sovereignties. And there they are seen in the sumptuous lineaments traced by desire. Lineaments are features and appearances. So just the way we would imagine them, all in all their perfection and richness and beauty, there they are existing already.
Sovereignties mean?
Sovereignties. A sovereign is a ruler, who has mastery. So at the moment there are things which Earth cannot achieve, but those things will be achieved sovereignly with great majestic ease and perfection in the future. Sebastian?
The golden issue of mind's labyrinth plots the richest unfound or still uncaught by our lives, unsullied by the attain of mortal thought, abide in this pellucid atmosphere.
Yes. So, the golden issue of mind's labyrinth plots. When we plan things, when our mind plans things, our plans tend to be very complicated. Labyrinthine, no? This and this and this and this. Mother's given a wonderful description of that too, of seeing the future as a great building construction, but how complicated it is and how you can't find your way through. And the mind says, yes, yes, I know the way, but then it doesn't. No? So that the golden issue, the final beautiful, perfect result of these labyrinthine, complicated plots of human mind.
Is issue here the result?
Yes, the outcome, yeah. The riches that our lives haven't yet found, or we might have found them but not been able to seize hold of them. No? They live there, they abide there in that perfectly pure atmosphere, pellucid, perfectly clear. They are unsullied. They are not in any way polluted or dirtied by the touch of our mortal thought, which smudges and spoils them and makes them complicated. A taint, yes, and a taint is when you get polluted by a touch. So when our mortal mind touches those beautiful riches, it spoils them, it leaves a smudge. But they're not there, they are not, they are unsullied, there's no pollution. Slava.
Our objective beginnings are overtaken here. Our mirror turns sketched out in prescient lines of kinship ends, anticipating the
Relive, yes. So, our vague beginnings. We are groping dimly towards certain future achievements, no? But though our vague beginnings, they've been overtaken, already achieved. They're already perfect there. No? And our middle terms, the things that we're in the middle of working out now, are already sketched out there in prescient lines. Prescience is knowing in advance. So we could already see there how these things we're working on now could work out. And even the finished ends, the results of our efforts, are already living, already achieved, already anticipated there. One more, Joel.
This brilliant roof of our descending plane, intersecting the free boom of heaven's air, admits small ingress of a mighty breath, of fragrant circuits through gold lattices. It shields our ceiling of terrestrial mind from deathless suns and the streaming of God's rain, yet canalizes a strange iris glow, and bright dews drip from the immortal sky.
So he says that world is like a kind of roof over our world. It's the brilliant, shining roof over our descending plane, our plane which goes lower down into matter. And what it does is that it intercepts, it comes in between us and the free boon of heaven's rain. That's what a roof does, actually. No, we don't want to be rained on when we are in bed or when we are eating. That's why we like to be underneath a roof. So this world is like a kind of roof to us. It protects us from that free downpour of heavenly rain and energy, no? And the boon of heaven's air. Instead, it just lets small inrushes of that mighty breath, of that stronger prana, come to us, as if there are some channels in the roof which allows some air to come in. It protects us from the rain and all that, but some air comes in, small inrushes of a mighty breath. Or even maybe it's like perfumes circulating through the channels in that roof, through gold lattices. Lattices are like jalis. Like jalis. Here is an architectural feature in India where lattices, which in Europe are usually made of wood, may be made out of stone, carved, or made from brick or terracotta or some other thing. So you can't see in very well, but it allows the air to come in.
Show him this.
Yes, show him the lattices.
Okay.
How useful these machines are.
Very much.
So that world, it shields, it protects our ceiling. Beneath the roof, there's a ceiling, no? Of terrestrial mind, of earthly mind. It protects us from deathless suns and the streaming of God's rain. We don't get the full force of the monsoon, but it canalizes to us, it channels to us a strange irised glow, a glow that's all the colors of the rainbow. And bright dews drip from the immortal sky. So we don't get the full force of the rain, but there's this bright dews, this fresh moisture that comes in the early morning in the spring. So that's its relation to our world. It's a kind of protective covering between us and the higher levels of existence. He will tell us much more about it.
When you tell about perfume, before when I go sleeping, many times come to me. Alors I hear,
where is it coming from?
my God, I follow. I love to. And also now color change. I see many colors in my. It's very interesting.
Yes, as our consciousness becomes more subtle, we can have these experiences of subtle hearing, especially when we are waking up or going to sleep. We may hear physical sounds, but we hear them differently. And we see, as you say, these different colors and perfumes and tastes even.
But I don't listen outside.
You're not hearing all this?
No. It's very, very strange, but a long time starting 2-3 years slowly. But when I am concentrated, I love.
You don't hear it. Very good. Very good. So we'll stop there today with that description, first description of the kingdom of subtle matter and its relationship with our world.
In the impalpable field of secret self, this little outer being's vast support, parted from vision by earth's solid fence, he came into a magic crystal air, and found a life that lived not by the flesh, a light that made visible immaterial things. A fine degree in wonder's hierarchy, the kingdom of subtle matter's faery craft, outlined against a sky of vivid hues, leaping out of a splendour-trance and haze, the wizard revelation of its front. A world of lovelier forms lies near to ours, where, undisguised by earth's deforming sight, all shapes are beautiful and all things true. In that lucent ambience, mystically clear, the eyes were doors to a celestial sense. Hearing was music, and the touch a charm, and the heart drew a deeper breath of power. There dwell earth nature's shining origins, the perfect plans on which she moulds her works, the distant outcomes of her travailing force, repose in a framework of established fate. Attempted vainly now, or won in vain, already were mapped and scheduled there the time and figure of her future sovereignties, in the sumptuous lineaments traced by desire. The golden issue of mind's labyrinth plots, the riches unfound or still uncaught by our lives, unsullied by the attaint of mortal thought, abide in that pellucid atmosphere. Our vague beginnings are overtaken there. Our middle terms sketched out in prescient lines, our finished ends anticipated live. This brilliant roof of our descending plane, intercepting the free boon of heaven's air, admits small inrushes of a mighty breath, or fragrant circuits through gold lattices. It shields our ceiling of terrestrial mind from deathless suns and the streaming of God's rain, yet canalizes a strange irised glow, and bright dews drip from the immortal's sky.